moving forward.
Moving forward.
Our topic for the day is AIT.
Am I an asshole?
Yes. So these are pretty popular right now. Some of them are very, very wild, and some of them are like, now you're the a-hole. Like, sit down, have a seat, do better.
Am I the asshole for telling my niece she has to leave the apartment so my nephew can stay?
Mm-hmm.
I'll call my nephew Sam. He's 27, and my niece Ann is 20. Sam is my brother's son, so direct nephew. Ann is his wife's niece.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My sister-in-law lives in the opposite coast, and Ann moved here to attend college and lived in student housing. She dropped out this year on leave and said it's just going to be for a year, but it's not confirmed. Don't know if she even plans on going back.
Okay.
I own an apartment in the area, and Ann asked if she could stay there while on leave because she can't stay in student housing anymore, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I said okay, and she's been there a few months. I do not charge her any rent, and she sometimes pays utilities. Sam, my nephew, has lost his job and has found another one, but it's not very much. And he and his partner are struggling with rent. Me and my wife had a discussion, but she doesn't think that we should tell Ann to leave, and Sam could find somewhere else just because they're older and may not really need the help. I told Ann we'll give her some time to find another place, but Sam and his partner would move in afterwards. Sharing isn't an option apparently because Ann and my sister-in-law's family said they'd rather not have to share with people that she doesn't know. My wife also agrees with them. Ann kind of got upset at hearing that she's going to have to move, and my wife is on my ass saying it isn't fair. Am I the asshole?
First of all, that was a whole lot of that was a lot. So I think I kept up with all of the details because it's in the details.
And again, that was my shortest one, so.
Oh God. But the other ones might not be as deep. There was a lot going on there.
Yeah.
So honestly, I feel like putting one family member out in order to accommodate for another is kind of messed up.
Mm-hmm.
You said 20 something and 20 something.
20 and 27. So Ann is 20 and Sam is 27.
He is almost 30, but also not.
Yeah.
And in this day and age, I don't really go by that anyway because it's difficult for who it's difficult for, and it's easy or easier for who it's easier for. So that should be taken into account.
Yeah.
Like the fact that you mentioned his job. I wouldn't straight up, if you're like, oh, you got to go, and you're like hardcore, get out, she's saying you can't, then yeah, you're an a-hole. But I feel like if it was like more of a calm discussion of like, oh, well, you're older and you can more easily get out on your feet.
Mm-hmm.
And they were misconstrued in that mentality, then you're not an a-hole, you're just mistaken.
Yeah.
But there's a lot. I don't know.
A lot of people said that he was the a-hole.
Yeah.
I don't think that he was.
No?
She's 20 years old. Sure.
She's starting out fairly fresh.
She chose to drop out of college and leave student housing. She's living somewhere where she does not pay rent or is obligated to pay rent or utilities. She just does it sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently there was no, or it seems like, right, based off of what is the information they're giving us. It doesn't feel like there was an agreement of how long she was going to be allowed to stay there. They were casually letting her stay there for as long as she needed. But then something came up to where his nephew needed a place to stay. So it's like, okay, well, you might have stayed your welcome at this point. You've been here for a few months. You have no plans. Like, you're not telling us if you plan on going back to college. Like, you can't stay here forever.
Right.
So what's your plan?
Neither one of them can stay there forever.
Yeah.
But putting somebody out.
Well, they're telling
and bringing somebody in also at the same time is kind of jacked
up. But also for Ann to say that she doesn't want to cohabitate with the nephew.
Yeah.
It's also like you have no right. There's no rental agreement. You aren't actually renting. You're not paying anything. You have no say in who can stay in this house.
Unless something happened between them that was like, serious enough. Yeah. It does not.
But it doesn't even seem like they've even interacted before. They're just complete strangers to each other.
That's not warranted at all. It's not your house.
Yeah.
So
I don't think he is. For how it sounds, it's kind of like Anne needed to kind of get off her butt and make some decisions on whether or not she's coming. She's already been there a few months, so it's like she's been there long enough to say, all right, I'm not going back to school, so it's time to go back home to mom and dad, or I am going back to school and making my housing set up.
Right.
But it sounds like she didn't even have a plan.
Yeah. I feel like some of these are going to be a little gray area. That one is gray area depending on all of the details. Yeah. But I wouldn't say. You said from making him leave so she can stay.
Did I?
Yeah. That was the original question, right?
No, it should make her leave so that he then making the college student leave so that the 27-year-old can move in. And the fact that he has a job and will be able to pay rent, like actually pay to live there, that would be extra income for the uncle as well. So if you look at it from a business standpoint, it will work out for him.
Right.
And then logistically, like I said, the girl eventually has to make up her mind where she's going to be. She couldn't stay there forever.
Well, not that this is everybody's case, but if you're already established in your place, you should be able to afford it.
Yeah.
That's not always the case, unfortunately. Yeah. But he should not be relying on anybody else's dollar anyway.
Yeah.
If that is you and your wife's. I don't believe that you should just put, like, some people are like, oh, you're 18, move out. Yeah. I don't believe in that mentality at all. So being that she's in college, like, oh, well, you stepped out, you're on your own. I don't believe in that.
Yeah, but she also has mom and dad.
Right.
I'm your uncle by marriage. I'm not even obligated to look after you.
Yeah. So no, he's not. He's not. No. Okay. No. I just want to make sure I got my facts straight. I'm on the right side of the family. It keeps going away from me. Dad slams daughter's elementary school over ridiculous lunchtime rules. I don't care. His wife makes their child very ornate lunches. Teacher asks them to tone it down. It isn't a rule. He tells the teacher he doesn't care about other kids and whines on r/am I the a-hole about it, which if you guys don't know is Reddit. So I looked up the Webster definition of it for the sake of this story,
right?
Because I'm thinking, like, is it very fragrant lunch or is it just that it's a lot? So ornate as an adjective means made in an intricate shape or decorated with complex patterns. So like cutesy Pinterest moms that stamp flowers. Right. So first of all, oh wait, I want to know your opinion first.
Oh, I would be right there with the dad. Like, you don't get to tell me how to prepare my child's lunch.
Absolutely.
I'm like that with my own girls. Like, they pack lunch and I pack them like a suitcase of food. They're gonna have every snack in the world in there, and they're gonna eat it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can't. Like, we've been told, obviously because of allergy issues, that like you can't pack peanut butter and jelly. Like, I get it.
I wouldn't pack peanut butter just because that can be a deathly allergy. Yeah. But if I know that that's our only thing, then I would pack it and let my son or sons, by the time they both go, I would let them know, like, listen, everybody can't have this.
No,
do not share this with.
You cannot take it to school anymore.
Oh, really?
No peanut butter crackers, no peanut butter jelly sandwiches. You are not allowed to have it in school, period.
Well, that's good for allergy's sake.
But
I would have let them know, don't, because my kids are very like, can I have some? And will offer stuff to people. So I would have let them know, like, do not share this with anybody. But that's better. As far as lack of allergies is concerned, don't tell me what to put in my baby's lunch. I'm going to put in, like you said, a suitcase. Like, I don't expect, my youngest might be like, ooh, snacks, and eat everything. My oldest might be like, okay, well, I don't want this or this, but mommy packed this. She know what I like. Yeah. She gave me options.
Yeah, exactly.
So that is my goal.
But then tell somebody like, oh, her lunch is just too pretty. You're not allowed to pack it. Other kids are jealous. Personal problem.
Not like, there's too many seasons. Like, my husband and I kind of got into a pre-discussion about it to make sure it was a good one. And we're talking about like cultural dishes. A lot of cultural dishes have a really strong smell. And I'm mentioning, like, if you're working at a job as an adult and you take your stuff into the break room and you use the microwave, are you gonna light the room up with your lunch?
Yeah.
Granted, there's a difference between mindfulness, like, okay, I know that this got a little scent to it. I'm gonna heat it up and I'm gonna take it out of here and eat
Mm-hmm.
it. Versus also you can pack whatever you want. You can eat whatever you want. But it's also a matter of being mindful.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about ornate lunches, like I'm in my mind a Pinterest mama. So I'm gonna have all kinds of stampers and cutters and cute things to let them like really be excited for lunch. And my mom, I don't remember when she stopped, but I will never forget. My mom used to leave notes in my lunches. Aww. And I think that's the cutest thing in the world. I don't remember what any of them said. I didn't say any of them, but I remember she did it. Yeah. And that's enough for me. Yeah. And I want to be able to do that for my kids. Like leave little notes and put cute little shapes. I make, smiley faces out of their breakfast or lunch if I can. You ain't gonna stop me from making cute things for my kids.
That's
like,
crazy that they're even asking that. Like,
that's wild to me.
Starting trauma in elementary school, that's crazy.
Elementary. Gang banging in elementary school. From the teachers to the students. Yeah.
Ready for mine?
Yes.
Am I an asshole for telling my wife's parents not to speak their native language in my house? My wife and I have been together for 6 years now. Her parents have made it clear that they don't approve of our relationship. They are, by the way, in a gay relationship. So that's what they meant. They are pretty traditional and such. Anyway, this doesn't really bother me because I never really see my wife's parents, and they do treat me civilly when they see me on a few occasions. My wife was also not close with them either until recently. In the past 6 months or so, they've been reaching out to her, seeming to want to rebuild their relationship. My wife was happy about this, and they seemed to connect, even though they'll never agree on a lot of things. Then my in-laws asked if they can visit for a week. I wasn't really happy about it, and I didn't want to make it an issue because I get how much it means to my wife. Okay. So they came, and they've been here for 3 days now. This is already more time than I've ever spent with them in the last 6 years, and I hate it so much. They are truly unbearable. They make it a point to make remarks about our dogs making the house dirty, about me wearing oversized shirts and not dressing respectfully around them, and also commented 10 times about how empty the house feels.
Wait, this is women or men?
Women.
Oversized shirts, okay.
And how empty the house seems without children, and pressuring them to adopt since they can't properly have children. But one of the things that really bothers me is that they often speak to each other in their native language when I'm in the room, and I'm positive they're talking about me. They never do this around my wife because she can understand them. This is what makes me feel so uncomfortable. It's only ever when I'm alone with them, and I work night shifts several days a week, and when I'm home, I'm with them during the day. So I asked them if they can please speak English when I'm around. They didn't say anything to me, but my wife did tell me later that they complained to her and she was angry. Apparently they think that I'm trying to disconnect my wife from her heritage. I'm not an asshole.
I am going to jump out on a limb and say no immediately because it's already a soft spot. First of all, if you feel like somebody's talking about you, learn the language if you feel like it. Yeah. Especially if you're married to the person. Yeah. Like, my husband will walk around saying little Spanish phrases, and I think it is the most hilarious, like, cute when he says those phrases. I know it would make my grandma laugh, and she would get enjoyment out of it. Yeah. But I feel like if he ever felt like, which they wouldn't, and my family was like talking about him in Spanish, learn some Spanish. Like, if you go to the nail shop and you're mad that they're speaking Vietnamese or whatever other language, if of course that shop has Asian employees, they typically do, you can't be mad. If you want to know what they're talking about, learn how to say crusty, learn how to say dry, like, and be like, okay, well, I know they're talking about me because they're saying like these keywords that I learned. You don't have to learn the whole language. That burden is kind of on you to learn that language.
So you do think that?
Okay. Whereas on the other end of the spectrum, if you speak another language, you know that the people around you cannot understand it, and you speak their language fluently. It's not like you struggle. Then to me, that always gives off an air of like, I'm talking about you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hardcore. Second of all, I was going to say the wife. She already didn't have a close relationship with them.
Mm-hmm.
So the expectation of her wife then having a relationship with her parents is like, I can only expect you to be as close as I am,
Mm-hmm.
if not less. In most cases, some
Mm-hmm.
people are closer to their parents-in-law, but it's a bit much.
Yeah.
And then you should never force people to have kids,
Mm-mm.
whether they're straight, gay, or anywhere in between. By way of birth, by way of adoption.
Yeah.
That is totally up to the couple.
Mm-hmm.
I have mentioned on my social media that you need to know your audience. Everybody always says, don't ever ask a woman if she's pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody or their mama could ask me if I'm pregnant. I don't care. But you know your audience. I don't care.
Yeah.
Whereas I would not go out and see a woman with a rounded stomach and be like, oh, when do you do?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely not. We don't do that.
Yeah.
Not in this day and age. Even if you know the person, they might have gained weight, they could have a tumor, they could be trying,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe they were pregnant, maybe they lost it. You just don't. Whereas most people say don't ask at all, I say know your audience.
Mm-hmm.
And y'all weren't close, so
Yeah.
you should not be talking to them about adopting kids.
Yeah.
Just a lot about that screams just no.
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree with you. I don't think that they
Not
are
the
the asshole. Because I'll use my example with CJ and his parents. Like, his mom doesn't speak English very well, but she can do it and she can understand it. His dad is pretty good at it. Even though it's like broken English, it's still, we can communicate just fine. But like the minute you start speaking Spanish around me, like knowing full well you can do English and you choose not to, that's when I have a problem. But aside from that, you're in my home.
Right.
And I'm making a simple request, like, can you just be able to communicate together? Like, can we speak the same language under my roof, so that way we are able to communicate, and it's not, it doesn't feel like it's some secret society happening, you know, under my roof. So
versus whether they lived in their native country or here, if you go to visit them, your husband very well may know fluent Spanish. Your kids very well may know fluent Spanish because they are made up halfway of that. You are not made up of that culture, and it is your choice to learn that language. And it takes time. You have to learn it. So if you're in their home, that's obviously different.
Way different.
If they're in your home, I would agree. Like, my grandma's first language is Spanish. She speaks English very well. She does have a strong accent. I understand her. She's my grandma. But she doesn't come in here and like, well, Spanish is easier, and just speak Spanish. She speaks English the entire time she's here. And then she can call her sister on the phone, and the whole entire conversation is in Spanish. So it's a matter of, like, that's their native language. They're having a private conversation. They're going to speak what is most comfortable to them. If they want to practice English and make sure that they're, you know, strong in it, still, they can do that. If they want to speak their native language, they can. It's a matter of, like I said before, being mindful. Just be mindful. I don't know what them parents were saying, but it didn't sound like they were being mindful at all.
So the original poster actually ended up getting that she was an asshole in that situation.
Really?
People told her that she should, in her 6 years of marriage with her wife, she should have learned the language.
Well,
like, nobody's obligated to do.
I'm not going to say she's an a-hole, but I will say she should at least know something. I'm not fluent. My husband's not fluent, but he has at least tried to learn some Spanish, which I appreciate, and that's enough for me.
But we don't know if we're talking Mandarin, Arabic. We don't know what.
It doesn't matter.
Do you know
Mandarin is difficult. I know. And Arabic and Mandarin specifically, I think, are the top two most difficult languages, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm not saying it's not hard, but there's no excuse not to learn something.
No, I don't agree with that.
To learn, like, hello, how are you doing? I missed you. I love you. Bye.
But if her wife is not connected with her heritage to an extent, if she's not close to her parents, like, if my husband did not speak Spanish in the house, why would I need to learn Spanish?
Well, that's different. Did they mention whether or not?
No. Unfortunately, that's like a detail that we don't.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, it's on the fence, right? Like you said, it's a lot of gray area.
Right.
Like, we don't know this, we don't know that.
Right.
So I don't think it's fair to call her out and say she's a butthole.
Yeah. So if the family member wife is completely disconnected from her culture, then no, you're not an a-hole. Because I'm not going to expect you to do something that I didn't do. Yeah. Like I said, I'm not fluent. My husband's not fluent. I ain't mad at it.
Yeah.
If I was completely fluent, I was like, listen, I want these kids to be bilingual. I want you to know it. Like, we're going to speak both languages in our home. Then I would have a higher expectation of him. I don't have that. Right. I don't have that expectation of him because I need to do it myself first. This one is pretty good.
Okay, I'm ready.
Pop out your teacup. Am I the a-hole for despising my mentally handicapped sister?
Are you?
Initial reaction is going to say yes, douchebag. But the title makes me sound horrible, but hear me out. My sister is severely autistic. She requires attention almost 24/7 and cannot be left alone. She is nonverbal and cannot take care of herself at all. Despite the fact that she is only 12, she is extremely destructive and violent and destroys anything. I hate her. That's heavy. That's your sister. That should be wrong to say, but it doesn't feel like it. I was only 6 years old when she was born, and since then, I've never solely had my parents' attention. Ever since I can remember, the world has revolved around her. I was moved out of my room into the basement at 7 because she needed to be in the room next to my parents. All of my toys as a child were destroyed by her, and my parents simply ignored me when I complained. Even when I was 14 and she destroyed a Mac my school gave me, I was in the wrong. Along with this, I'm expected to take care of her and drop everything I do for her. I can never make plans with friends because my parents expect me to be there if they need me to take care of her. Even when I do somehow get time to myself, I'm required to leave if they need me. If I do not, then I am punished. The recent example of this is when I went to see the new Spider-Man movie and was grounded because I turned my phone off. It seems as if I am nothing more than a slave to them, and anything involving her simply overshadows me. This last week I was chosen to give a speech at a school event. I was so excited, and my parents promised to be there, but they never showed and claimed it was because of my sister. Anytime anything like this happens for me, they are too busy with her. I've held this in for so long, and it finally spilled out today while talking about colleges with my father. He joked that I should get a degree that pays well, so when they're gone, I can take care of my sister. I don't know why this caused me to break down. I cried and screamed about how it is always about her. I'm nothing more than a caretaker to them, that they always make it about her, and that I'm always expected to be her slave for the rest of my life. I've locked myself in my room since then, and my parents have not come back to check on me. Am I the a-hole here?
So, with the title, she is.
Right.
Because you can't be mad at someone who really does not have the ability to control their temperament.
Right.
But
she didn't have to be born.
Right. Yeah. It's like things are out of her control. But the way her parents are raising them and handling the situation, she's definitely not fulfilling the way she feels.
Right.
Like, she has resentment towards her sister, and I think she should have resentment towards her parents, not the sister.
And honestly, I think she's confusing resentment with hate. I don't think she hates her sister at all.
Yeah.
You have, I wouldn't even say hatred, but you have a disgust, a disliking, a loathing, whatever, for the way that your parents are handling their parenting towards you versus your sister. So saying like, I hate my handicapped sister, am I wrong? Obviously, yeah, that sounds horrible. Yeah, you're an a-hole. But her parents are not doing what there's an update.
Okay.
I'm going to try to skim through a little bit. You guys seem interested. Here's my update. I've been staying with my grandfather. It's been a huge change, and for worse, but I'll try to run it down. I started telling my grandpa the story of why I broke down, and to be honest, he seemed horrified. No one in my family knew, that they were essentially using me for free care for my sister. My grandpa told me some things that I didn't feel comfortable repeating on here, but in essence, my sister is supposed to be getting care from a professional, and that my parents ignored that. First of all, that is essential information, but she said she got it from her grandfather after. Along with this, I was not supposed to be caring for her at all with her mental state, as apparently she is a danger to herself and others. So, first of all, her parents were all, like, as a parent, nobody's perfect, but you have to balance between your kids. You have to make sure you're giving. Some kids don't require as much attention, but if they require a lot, both of them, you have to balance between time for you, time as a family, time to myself, time to my husband. It's a lot.
Yeah.
You using her in that manner, knowing that she was supposed to be getting professional help, is absolutely wrong, 100%.
And like, there's no justification as like maybe finances or something like that, but
I'm getting to that.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh dear.
I said break out your teacup. So, with everything else I told them, after which meant there, along with the stuff of the movie, he was really mad and told me to not contact my parents without him there. He pretty much told me that he would be meeting with my parents beforehand and that he was going to be there when I sat down with them. It didn't end here either. The rest of the week consisted of other family checking in on me and telling me things that my parents hid from me. This included the fact that my parents have been taking money from family to fund a caretaker that doesn't exist.
Oh my gosh. That's bad. So
first of all, you're not treating your daughter properly. If you were like, times are so hard, things are so tough, and we have to do what we have to do. I know you're young, but buckle down, help us with your sister. It's not the best thing to do, but it might have been your only thing that you knew best as a parent to do. But when you taking money from the rest of your family to fund something that legally, emotionally, mentally, your youngest daughter needs, you're not giving that to her. And you're using somebody who's not a professional, who's a child themselves.
Right. That's what I was thinking. Like that. She's too young to even be managing that.
I'm 30 years old, and I don't know how to deal with severe autism. As many we've talked about in prior episodes, I've worked with. To my knowledge, I've never dealt with any children who had disabilities, and definitely not severe disabilities. If they did have any of those disabilities, they were not diagnosed yet. But clearly, for any parent or child care worker who's dealt with a wide range of kids or deals specifically with kids who have that disability, you know that it takes a special patience, sometimes a special knowledge, a special training.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at, the training that you need to be able to handle that case.
So to put that on not just another human that's not you, their parent, but a child. Yeah. It's like your title sets you up to look like an a-hole, but she, in my opinion, is not. Word it a little bit better next time.
Yeah, she's definitely not. No, she's been scammed out of her childhood.
And then she goes on to say, she did go to the house to, I'm going to skim through this because I did read it prior. She went back to the house to get her stuff. I think her father left completely. And her mother was there, but silent the entire time. And then as she was leaving, her mother was like, I love you. And she's like, I wonder if my mother even meant that. Yeah. Which is deep in and of itself. Yeah. As a child, you should know that your parents love you. If you ever wonder, like, I wonder how much, like, it could be higher. I don't know if they love me that much, but you should know as a child that your parents. So it seems like she's definitely trying to be on her road to healing, but that's obviously going to take some time. If he's talking about like colleges and this started from when she was 6 and her sister was born, that's a lot of healing that needs to be done over a decade.
A lot.
Yeah.
No, I hope she has a good future, good path.
Me too.
Because my goodness, that's wild.
Yeah.
All right.
Are you gonna lighten things up or
no? Not too much.
Take us deeper.
Am I the butt for siding with my mother-in-law about my wife's health? So some background, my mother-in-law was pretty toxic and controlling when my wife was growing up, and they went no contact for a while when my wife moved away after high school. They have reconnected later in life when my wife and I moved back to our hometown. To give credit where credit is due, my mother-in-law has been to therapy and has been working on her relationship and has genuinely improved their relationship and is much better than it was. A sort of lingering side effect of my wife's upbringing is that her knee-jerk reaction to not listen to what her mother tells her to prove her independence is a problem. It's not a big deal when it's something non-relevant like I got you a blue dress because you always look good in blue, and I will guarantee you that my wife will wear nothing but red for the next month, like almost like a spiteful way. The issue that has arisen is that my mother-in-law is a doctor, and my wife has recently had some semi-serious health issues. This has created a situation where my mother-in-law will make some suggestions or something that can help my wife's conditions and is medically accurate. My wife's response to this is the opposite, and it's to prove that, the opposite to prove she doesn't have to listen to her mother, which is the problem, which is legitimate medical advice. Recently, an instance has occurred where my mother-in-law made a suggestion that how to avoid certain foods that are high in a certain thing that can help my wife with her symptoms. My wife has responded by doubling down on those nutrients and has correspondingly feeling worse. I pointed out the diet changes my mother-in-law recommended and that could help improve how she's feeling. She reacted poorly and accused me of invalidating how traumatic and controlling her childhood was, and said suggesting that she needs to listen to her mother is damaging her mental health. Am I the butt for telling my wife she needs to listen to the medical advice for her own health?
No. Straight up, immediately no. I feel like...
Oh, they continue.
I feel like, first of all, if that's your spouse and you have a good, healthy relationship, you want what's best for your spouse. That's medical advice. It's not just mama advice, which you want the best for your kids. You want your kids to be healthy. If you're a medical professional on top of that, that just sweetens the deal, puts the cherry on top. But there's obviously some deep-rooted issues with her. If she's like, my mama said the sky is blue, but it's red.
It's going to be red now.
Right. Like, there's obviously deep-rooted issues there.
Of course. Yeah.
So, no. Immediately, no. He's not the a-hole.
So, people would agree with you that he's not. I, on the other hand, agree that he is.
What? I could tell what was going on there.
The reason why is because I feel like, okay, it could be his own ignorance, okay? If I told you that I had a toxic relationship with my mother and do not want to take her word for anything, don't tell me anything.
Okay, well, you didn't read any... I listened to everything, but did he give any example of, like, she said it was toxic, but I haven't seen anything as such?
No, he comes to her and he's like, your mom said if you eat spinach, it's going to make your condition worse. You shouldn't eat spinach. You know what I mean? Like, it's from
was making her worse.
And it was making her worse. But the fact that the mom is the one who said it, that sent her over. Like, I don't want to listen to my mom.
So then that's a gray area.
So instead, the husband should use his common sense and go, hey, hon, I saw on Google that spinach can make your condition worse. Maybe we should look into it or get a second opinion from your doctor.
But that doesn't make the wife, that doesn't make the mother wrong. No. That just means that he's twisting the angle to get his wife
doesn't need to know
to do better. My thing is, okay, if she has a toxic relationship with her mother and she doesn't want to listen to anything she has to say, that's your prerogative, boo boo. It's your life.
Yeah.
That's your business. You're a grown woman, do you. But if this is now at the detriment of her health and her husband is trying to help her.
He's trying, for sure. I'm not taking that from him.
Yeah.
He's just not doing a good job.
I will say, because we are on opposite ends, I will say that there's definitely a gray area. That toxicity between the mother and the daughter is obviously a huge factor.
Yeah.
But he's clearly trying to help her.
No, he is.
So, like you said, he can twist it and be like, hey, babe, Google said instead of your mom said. But
it's like how I look at it is like when as a young parent, if my mom was like, well, that's not the way I did it when I was raising my baby.
Right.
You should powder first and then this second or something like that. But like, don't tell me how to do it. So now I'm going to do it the opposite. You tell me to powder first. I'm not going to powder first. I don't care if it's the right way or not. You're not going to tell me how to be, you know.
I'm laughing because I'm the same way, but not as bad.
That's what I feel like.
I won't purposely be like, well, you said first, so second.
Yeah.
But I'm big on, I will take anyone within my circle. I'll take anybody's advice.
Yeah.
Into consideration. Does not mean that I'm going to listen to you.
Right.
I'm going to listen to myself. So I'm not going to do it exactly the opposite just because. But I'm also very firm in like, I'm going to do this my way. Even if it doesn't turn out the way I want it to turn out, I'm going to think it through thoroughly. That's why I disagree with the wife. Is I don't think she's thinking clearly and thoroughly. Like, my mom said this, but she doesn't know what she's talking about. She's just thinking about the bad relationship between her and her mother. And I don't want to listen to anything you have to say.
Yeah.
I don't think it has anything to do with the fact that the mother is a medical professional.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
gray area.
So, the good thing about these AITAs is that you have not the butthole, is the butthole. Everyone sucks here.
Right.
And there's another one I can't think of right now. So in this
gray
case,
area, or
I think everyone is the butthole.
y'all are safe.
The mom knows. The mom knows the relationship she has with her daughter. So like, shut up and stop talking. Just mind your business. Let her do her, because you're making it worse.
Right.
Husband should just stop trying to be the middleman, because he's not doing a good job at it. It's okay to be concerned with your wife's health and want to, like, you care, but like, you're not doing it correctly.
Take her for a second opinion.
Exactly. Like, there's other things to do.
Her doctor. And let her doctor tell her.
Exactly. And then, of course, the wife is being stubborn and is, like you said, the detriment for her own health. So I think everybody sucks in this situation.
I feel like the husband, at worst, is just stepping on toes.
He's just not the brightest.
He wants to help his wife, but he's stepping on toes, but he wants to help his wife. His wife is being an a-hole. And if his mother was raising her daughter, if her mother was raising her in a toxic way, then yeah, you're an a-hole too.
I think the mom is more of an a-hole, even more like the wife. As an adult, you're like, you gotta really get your stuff together. Yeah, as an adult,
at a certain age, and age doesn't always make a difference. Maturity and mental capacity, you need to realize, obviously, there's something wrong here. Yeah, meet a therapist. Let me talk to somebody. Right. Let me go get drinks with a friend and talk to a bartender. Like, it doesn't have to be something insurance covered, but you know there's some problems between you and your mother. Fix it. So,
that was interesting, because like, what dynamic, what perspective would you?
Would I be the a-hole? Okay. For not telling the guy I've been dating for a month that I'm having artificial insemination to be a single mother.
No.
Not at all.
No.
You don't even want to know the details.
I want to know the details, but you know, my first initial is no, you're not.
Okay. So prior to lockdown, the pandemic is what she's referencing. I decided to be a single mother by choice. The journey to accepting this has taken 2 years, and including counseling and a very thorough plan to ensure I could do this alone. I was happy with my decision, and I was at a good place in my life where I realized my desire to be a mother was stronger than looking for a partner. Okay. Your prerogative. Go girl. Which may or may not happen. And with my fertility declining, I chose to go down this path as a solo woman. Okay. Strong decision. Right before I was due to have artificial insemination with donor sperm, the pandemic hit. The treatments were canceled. There was no timeline for when this was to reopen. For a few days, I was devastated as I was so mentally prepared for this. And then I picked myself up and decided to park my plan. After all, I didn't have a choice. I downloaded a dating app out of curiosity, figured out I could still chat to guys and see what happened without any expectation, really. Okay. I've been talking with a guy. Let's call him G. And it's only been a month. So very early stage. However, we've met up twice with a third meeting planned. Spoken many times on the phone and get a really good feeling from him. For the first time in years, quite frankly, I feel emotionally connected with a man. And it feels completely natural and promising. During this time, the clinic called me to say they have had approval and do I wish to go ahead this month with my treatment. I want to be a mother more than ever, so I said yes, and I'm not on medication. I'm sorry, I have an arrow in the way. I'm now on medication with my appointment set for next week. While there's no guarantee I'll get pregnant on the first go, obviously, I have a conflict in mind about informing G of my plan. On the one hand, it's such an early stage of our romance without yet being anything committed that I feel like I'm bringing something up prematurely. On the other hand, I wonder what may happen as time goes on. Am I just delaying the inevitable? Is it deceptive of me to not inform him of something so fundamental in my life? A friend told me that I'd sabotage a potential relationship with him by not telling him of this plan right now, and that a man who is really into me will accept me even if I'm pregnant. And that more time is needed for him to really get to know me, but my mind is wondering if it will piss him off by subtly saying, hey, I'm pregnant, by the way. We've spoken loosely about wanting kids in the future, so I know he'd like a family, but it was brief. It was a brief passing comment. I'm also not willing to get into a long-term relationship, and we are far too early, on to be thinking about a family together. Would I be the a-hole for keeping quiet? I don't know if y'all can hear that. Our kids are wild right now. Would she be the a-hole for keeping quiet about the plan for now?
No, but she is.
So, group consensus was that she was an a-hole.
I don't agree with those people think.
First of all, it could have not been artificial insemination, which there's like, cheating and infidelity involved. If you're dating somebody like, oh, you're pregnant, it's artificial insemination. There was nobody else. Right. I want to be a mom.
Right.
That's a me thing.
Right.
So there, I'm with her. But there are men who know that a woman is pregnant by somebody else and know that that man is not going to be doing anything for her, and will step up. So I feel like even more so that percentage of men would grow to what number, I don't know, if there is no other man involved. If they're like, oh, okay, cool, like there's a baby but there's no other man, I can totally deal with that. More so than if there's baby daddy drama.
Right.
She was nervous, she wanted to be honest, went back and forth. I knew this was baggage he hadn't expected, and that there was every chance he would step away from the situation. Well, he didn't. That makes me feel even more so if she kept it to herself. It's a gray area that she would have been an a-hole because he was willing to accept it. The thing with kids don't even have to be involved. Like a past coworker of mine had a situation with he was married, they were having some issues, they separated. Not legally, they didn't file paperwork, they were just like, give me some space. So he decided he was going to flirt with other people, talk to other people, whatever. Like, I don't know if it was any more serious than that. I ain't getting any business. He was sharing this. I'm like, let me ask you a question. It's like, okay. I said, why not just be honest? So his mindset was, I'm going to date whoever I want to. I'm going to talk to whoever I want to. I'm going to do things with whoever I want to. My mindset is there are women who will not shot you if they find out that you did something that they're not okay with, because that they are a one man woman and they want you to be a one woman man. There are also women out there who are not going to care.
Right.
Either they're secure in themselves or they're doing their own thing or whatever else.
Yeah.
So why not be honest and find a woman that is okay with those things versus he was mentioning, the other women's reactions and that, they would get upset with him. I'm like, what do you expect?
Right.
You have to expect the woman to be upset if you're making her feel like she's the only one and she ain't. And she finds out that she's not. She's going to feel embarrassed. She's going to feel stupid. Yeah. Versus if she's like, boy, I'm doing my own thing. I don't care what you're doing. Then you're free to do whatever you want. And of course, people's feelings do change, even if they mention like, I don't care what you're doing, do you?
Yeah.
They can still change their mind and be like, oops, I like you more than I thought I did. Like, let's make this official. But it was interesting to me to sit in a room. I was gonna say room full of men, like it was 20. There were 3 guys there that contributed to the conversation, and it seems like they were all in agreement of like, I don't have to divulge whatever information I don't want to if I'm gonna paraphrase, and that doesn't make sense to me. So in her situation, because it's not just men, I feel like you don't have to tell everybody all of your business, but if you're like, dating is trash, I'm gonna be a single mother, oops, this guy actually shows some promise, then I feel like that is where, not necessarily that you owe him, but where you can open yourself up a little bit more to like, I actually can see something with you. I feel that you can see something with me. This is what my future is looking like. Not like, oh, this is what I dream of. Like, no, I'm doing this. I took the medication. I'm about to have some procedures. How do you feel about this?
I don't think it's any of his business. They've been talking for a month. He's not entitled to that.
Well, I think at first it was a month. I would have to read back. But I think
even after 6 months, I'm not telling you.
Yeah, and that honestly, it's a gray area one for me. Because woman to woman, he could find out later, like see her walk up to one of their dates with a big belly and be like, whoa.
Well, I mean, I think when she gets pregnant, she should tell him, like, hey, by the way, this is something that I did. I did it for this reason, and this is where I'm at. I've already had this in my mind. And then, like, think about it too. Like, she mentioned that he talked about maybe having kids in the future very vaguely. But the thing is, what if he's the type of person who was like, well, I'm gonna wait like a year or two, because it's easier for men to, I wouldn't say conceive, but to do their thing than it is for a woman to conceive. So he has a lot more time on his hands than she does.
Yeah,
so
I wouldn't say easier, but he has more time.
Yeah, so she's rushing against the clock, and she's doing what she needs to do for her now. Whereas he might be like, oh, I've had a couple of years. Let me just date her for a year or two, maybe get engaged and married. So then she's putting this off for like a couple of years to accommodate him, and then so it's like I don't think it's information that needs to be.
The only difference is, I'm a single woman with no kids, and I'm a single woman with a kid. Because women with kids go on dating sites too. So that's literally the only difference. It adds the factor of the kid, but there's no other man.
Yeah.
So as early on as it may seem, he told me my honesty made him consider his own future and how he really wants a family someday, and how he has admiration for me being honest about my situation, and how he wants to help me fulfill my desires to be a mother, whether with him or with donor sperm. Either way, he wants to be a part of my life. So that's where I say, like, that's why honesty should be forefront with any and everything that you do.
I think he would be, if he's as good as a guy as he seems, his reaction would have been the same.
I agree with privacy too. Just to clarify,
yeah.
I do agree with having your privacy. I feel like if you want to connect your life with someone else's, that honesty needs to be at the forefront.
No, absolutely. But yeah, I think that it sounds like he's a good guy. It sounds like he would have accepted it regardless. So if she were to come to him and say, hey, I think wasn't there a movie like that with like Jennifer Lopez or Jennifer Aniston when she did that artificial simulation? So. It's like, hey, by the way.
No, I wonder, did somebody make this up and throw it on the internet?
Like,
I think there was a movie like that. Yeah.
And it was like a surprise. And it's like, well, I'm going to be there regardless. So it's just like, either he's going to be there or he's not.
Even we were talking about Jane the Virgin earlier. That was a similar situation where she went to the doctor for, what was it, a pap?
Yeah.
And they were like, oops, we'll switcheroo, you're pregnant now. Like, I mean, privacy only goes so far when it comes to pregnancy. Eventually, it's going to be obvious.
Yeah. So I don't think she should hide a pregnancy or anything like that. But I think there's no point in. It's like that's
divulging everything.
Yeah. It's just like, I don't know. I'm trying to compare it to something, but like it's like if you're doing something and it doesn't happen, it's like no point in divulging that information if nothing happened. There's nothing to tell.
Right.
So I guess she already did it, so it is what it is. But
it goes both ways. Depending on, like I said, know your audience. If it were, I wouldn't ever be in that situation. But if it were me, I would want to let the person know ahead of time. Like, I'm the type of person that I let my husband know before he was my husband. If you don't want to have kids and you want to get married, leave me alone. And that was early on. So I could have scared him away. Could have been like, she's crazy. This is way too early. Why she's talking about kids and marriage? I'm like, I'm not getting on my knee to propose to you. I'm not asking you to get me pregnant tomorrow. I'm just letting you know if those things are not even remotely on your radar, don't waste my time.
Right.
So there's a complete difference of like, I'll see where life takes me, and I know where my life gonna take me. I was like, I know where my life is gonna take me, where it has to take me, where I want it to take me. And if I scare people off, then that's not who God meant for me. Period. And
that's what I'm saying. I don't think that it was necessary for her to give that information because he's gonna be there or he's not.
Right.
It is what it is. And then again, like even if they only been dating for three months, that's still too early to really say, hey, you may or may not be a baby daddy.
Even like you had mentioned, 6 months. Even 6 months is early. Like
for the dating world,
the time frame of me and my husband like getting together, getting married, having kids was so fast. It was so fast. But I've known him since early high school. So if I met him, if I met him off the street, absolutely not.
I wouldn't even tell you my address in the first 6 months of dating.
We started dating in 2015. We're living together in 2016. There's some people who within 2 months, let alone a year, will move in with each other. Absolutely not. I don't know you, sir. That's a case by case gray area for sure. But it worked out. Apparently.
That's good for her. I'm glad there was an update on that.
Yes. Of course, I don't know if he stayed, but even if you get married, I was trying to delete them as we were going, so I didn't lose my place. I think that's it.
They were all really, really good. Really good debates.
I love AITAs where I can decide. Because
those are rare, though.
Yeah.
Those are rare.
I had to dig deep.
You're definitely the bubble. That's a no-brainer. You're not.
People seeking validation because they know they're not wrong.
That's what it is.
Or people who are like, you, internet, are going to prove me right. And it's like, no, we're not. You're absolutely an a-hole.
That's all it is. It's come down to validation. It's not even like, am I truly? It's like, no, you just want to know if you're right or wrong. Right. And if you're right, you want to be praised.
Absolutely. These, I feel like, I don't know if all of them were, I don't remember, but most of them were gray area ones. Thank you for joining us.
That was fun.
If you enjoyed this episode, we would really appreciate it if you like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Join our family. Come back each week. We're going to be switching things up and keeping things fresh for you all. Again, happy Honduran Independence Day. We love you guys. Peace.